Welcome back. We're looking at prospects for the current peace talks between Palestinians and Israelis. And joining the discussion are Dr. Nabil Abu-Zunaid, the Palestinian Chargé d'Affaires to the United States, and MJ Rosenberg, the Director of Policy Analysis at the think tank Israel Policy Forum in Washington, D.C. Listening to the sense of optimism or lack of optimism, Dr. Abu-Zunaid, to what extent do you feel that Annapolis last year was essentially just a photo op then for President Bush and perhaps the others?
Well, we thought after 7 years of absence of negotiations and talk, we thought it would be a good progress. And followed that, there was a Paris conference to give support, financial support to the Palestinians. And most of the Arab countries joined, and they came in really good faith to push the peace process forward. But unfortunately, a few weeks after the Israelis left, they started building more settlements. And anytime you talk about peace, there are more settlements. And the figures I gave you, over 1,800 housing settlements were approved, 800 of them were tendered, and the killing of the Palestinians continues. How can I convince the Palestinians there would be a hope?
This, MJ, this is an issue that comes up a lot, that, you know, why does Israel, while supposedly making peace or talking about making peace, build settlements? You know, the war continues, and it seems like it's a unilateral decision just to carry on, irrespective of this supposed goodwill.
Well, I think, you know, the United States has never really sent a strong, unambiguous message to stop settlement expansion. I mean, if the United States did, I think the Israelis would have to. And unless the United States tells them that, the Israeli Prime Minister is not going to take any kind of a chance of standing up to a very powerful right-wing settler lobby. There's really no pressure from the U.S. to, you know, to stop with the settlement expansion.
And is the U.S. pressure enough to counter the settler policy?
Well, I think there are enough people in Israel who themselves want the settlements to or opposed to settlements and opposed to settlers, that with the United States sending a clear message, yeah, it could make a difference.
Well, let's get on the line from Jeddah in Saudi Arabia. Mustafa, what would you like to ask?
Well, I would like to ask, I believe America are the ones that can create peace in the Middle East, because they can talk to Israel. If you recognize Palestine, I believe the violence will at least reduce by 90%. But why are you going, what are they going, the Israel building settlements again after
right.
they have started agreement? I think
Mustafa?
It goes to show, yeah.
Right. I'm going to put this to Dr. Abu-Zunaid then, in the form of the question, okay, America could put some pressure on Israel. What about the Arab governments putting some pressure on America to take action?
Well, let me answer, first of all, on America and the settlements. Someone told me today that Secretary Rice is not going to the region. I jokingly told him, probably we saved some land. Anytime she goes to the region, few hours when she leaves, the Israelis announce new settlements. So by her not going, maybe we saved some land, Palestinian land. And I agree with you. All the time we ask what the new president would do, what America would do. I think the Arab countries, the Arabs who has interest in peace, they should have some kind of interest within the United States, since they have good markets for the U.S. goods, economy with the U.S., they have oil. I'm not saying that they should use the oil as embargo, but they should tell the American companies, we are hurt by not having peace with the Palestinians, and if this policy toward the Palestinians and their lands continue, we should take a serious steps. So this is the only message the Arabs can send. But as long as the Arabs are not taking any position, the Arabs are not united economically and so on, I think the Americans will take them for granted.
All right, London now with Abdurrahman. Abdurrahman, what would you like to ask?
My question is, I wonder if the Arab leaders are actually following up events, especially that which has to do with what the presidential candidates are actually saying about the Arab-Israel relationship, like what Hillary Clinton just said today concerning Barack Obama being a very good friend to Israel.
Yes.
Are the Arab leaders actually listening to?
Actually, let me ask Dr. Nabil Abu-Zunaid about this. I mean, from what you know in the Arab world, do they pay attention to what's being said regarding the Middle East policy, or is it just a case of we're going to hear rhetoric until the person gets in the White House?
Well, I think they hear it, but it seems like they rather stay out of the American political internal issues. But to me, it seems like many candidates think the keys to the White House are in the hands of the Israelis or in Tel Aviv. I wish Obama today send a message of peace and a hope for the Palestinians. It's good he talked about the Israeli security, I can understand it, but I think he should send a message to the Palestinian refugees: we will address you, we are ready to solve this conflict. To the Palestinian suffering, he could say that today. He did not mention any of that. So it seems like the keys are in Tel Aviv and he's ready to have them.
They're still looking for the votes, I think. MJ Rosenberg, an email we got from Brussels touches on sort of leadership in Israel, and this is something you mentioned earlier. Now, Annie in Brussels writes in saying, the main obstacle to peace is Israeli bad faith. Although I am all for peace, I cannot see it happen given the present mentality of the Israeli leadership. And that leads me on to ask that how effectively can Ehud Olmert be a leader for peace when he's got all this the investigation he's facing on bribery scandals?
Well, actually, I have been favorably impressed with Olmert. For someone who started out as a right-winger, as a greater Israel person, he seems to have come around to be someone that Abbas could deal with, and the two of them worked well together. I think he really would like to get an agreement now. I don't think he could deliver one.
Yeah. Is he the best face for peace on the Israeli side from what you can see right now?
I think that that his most likely successor is Tzipi Livni, the foreign minister, shares his views and would be seriously would pursue negotiations. But there are big problems. A new prime minister will come in and say, "I'm new. You can't expect me to do anything tomorrow," and that's always a problem. It seems with the Israelis, they always say that this isn't the right moment to pursue a deal, when in fact it is always a right moment. We waited long enough.
Well, let's get London on the line, and Hassan is there with a question. Go ahead, Hassan.
Yes, my question is how fair is it that Israel demands that Israel needs to be recognized by Hamas before it can establish any relationship with Hamas and the Palestinian government, whereas Israel has not recognized the state of Palestine.
Okay, MJ, did you get that? Basically, what right does Israel have to say it won't do any deal with Hamas until Hamas recognizes the state of Israel, but then on the other hand, Israel won't reciprocate with recognizing the Palestinians?
Well, I think that right now, in fact, Israel is dealing with the Hamas government in Gaza, and it's dealing obviously with the government of the Palestinian Authority. There are quiet negotiations going on. I would not be surprised if some kind of a ceasefire agreement will be reached, which would also for the Palestinians allow the entry of more needed goods. I think I agree with the caller to the extent I think that waiting around for formal recognition by either side is pointless. You should really go to try to change things on the ground. If you wait for recognition, you're going to wait for a long, long time.
Okay, Andreas is on the line from Germany. Good to hear from Germany. Andreas, what would you like to ask?
Hello, this is Andreas from Germany. Hi. I'm sometimes doing peace projects with young people from Israel, Palestine, and Germany. Okay. And so often I get the impression that the people who are suffering on both sides are blaming the whole Israel or the whole Palestinians. And to be exact, I wonder why not more people come together over the borders, over the checkpoints, to meet the other side people who are interested in peace, instead of blaming the government or all the Israeli people or all the Hamas or all the Palestinians. So
valid point, Andreas. I'm going to put this to Dr. Nabil here and say that's true, isn't it? That actually when we debate this issue, we tend to think in global terms, that Israel and the Palestinians, and they in big terms, we don't look at the people themselves and see how much effort there is at a grassroots level to try and create more unity. I mean, there are people that do establish
I think it's important. It's essential for any peace negotiation and successful negotiations that the two people will understand each other and recognize each other. But how can I do that when I cannot move from my home? How can I do it when I cannot get to the next city? How can I do it when I get to Jerusalem while the Israel is free to go anywhere? So it's unfair, and you cannot be equally if you do that with the Israelis. They have to change the policies on the ground toward the Palestinians. We have to get some freedom of movement. We have to see the end of the suffering little bit of the Israelis. But as long as the humiliation continues, it would be hard to convince the normal people, or go to your oppressor, recognize your oppressor. It would be difficult because the humiliation for no reason is continuing daily in the West Bank and Gaza.
In a line, we have like literally 30 seconds. First to you, Dr. Nabil. Do you have optimism for when things change in the White House? Do you feel there is going to be more progress?
Well, we have, as Palestinians, to be optimistic, or we will not do anything else.
MJ Rosenberg?
Yeah, I'm optimistic, but it depends who wins the election.
Either way, will it be better or worse?
It has to be better.
Okay, it has to be better. Gentlemen, thank you both for joining us. Really a pleasure to speak with you.
Thank you.
Thank you. And thank you for being with us with your questions. On the next show, hip-hop minus sex, drugs and violence. We talk to Danish sensation Outlandish about their brand of music with meaning. Hope you'll join us with questions for that. We'll see you next time.